President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, honorable ministers of trade and industry on both sides and other ministers. It is a real pleasure to be here. 2 years ago to the day, we hosted an interactive business roundtable in this very same hotel. It was a frank and robust engagement with the business community of Ghana and South Africa, and I'm really delighted to see that there are so many more of business leaders from both countries. We made an undertaking to meet annually to take stock in our endeavor to build sustainable business ties as we continue to strengthen the ties between our two countries at both a political and diplomatic level. At that time, none of us anticipated that the world would be struck by a disaster of the magnitude of COVID-19. The pandemic brought unprecedented disruptions to our continent, reducing earnings and increasing poverty and food insecurity throughout the continent. A number of countries on our continent have experienced severe economic recession and challenges. I salute the resilience of the business community and your ability to sustain your businesses through these very trying and difficult times. A critical condition for the recovery of our economies is clearly the successful rollout of COVID-19 vaccines and the continued adherence to the measures and protocols that all countries have put in place to keep our people safe, our livelihoods intact, and our economies functioning. While more than 220 vaccine doses have been administered on our continent, only 6.7% of Africa's population is fully vaccinated. This is simply not acceptable, and it is also not enough if we are to revive and rebuild our economies that have been made fragile by COVID-19. Equitable access to vaccines is clearly the best way to mitigate economic, social, and health consequences of this pandemic. That is why South Africa, together with India, has co-sponsored a proposal at the World Trade Organization for a temporary TRIPS waiver to ensure access to COVID-19 vaccines and treatments. As African countries, we should rally together behind this proposal, as many have, because the fastest and most effective way to vaccinate our population is if we are allowed to manufacture our own vaccines and at the same time build our own domestic pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities. As African leaders, we have to adopt strategies for a resilient recovery. And one of the best ways of doing so is if we manufacture our own vaccines. And this is where we will go beyond President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo's proposal that we should stop being recipients of aid. We should actually rely on our own capabilities as Africans. And it is precisely for this reason that we have raised this issue, that manufacturing of vaccines should be based on the African continent. We have 1.3 billion people who should be vaccinated, and the vaccines should be made here and no longer be imported from outside of our continent. And it is through this that we will be able to ensure economic sustainability and faster industrialization of our respective economies. The task that lies before us is to actively seek out trade and investment opportunities beyond our borders, not in Europe, not in Asia or the Americas, but with our own neighbors and on our own continent. One sector with growth potential is the pharmaceutical sector. And this is a sector that we must now pay attention to. We have learned from this pandemic that a reliance on important medical supplies is not sustainable for African countries. We have already seen progress in the South African pharmaceutical sector, which has commenced with the local production of vaccines. We have observed the same trends here in Ghana as local businesses switched to production of personal protective equipment. And South Africa and Ghana and a few other countries on our continent are primed, ready, and will have the capability of manufacturing the vaccines that our continent needs. And it is for this reason that the World Trade Organization should put this waiver into effect so that we must get on with the task of protecting the health of our people on our continent, ourselves as Africans, and not be reliant on some people in Europe and in America who tend to look after their own interests before they look after the interests of others. So ample opportunities also exist in a number of other sectors. We heard earlier about the value chains that we need to put in place, which the Secretary General of the AFCTA was talking about. But we've also heard from the ministers about the various other value chains the automotive industry offers as such. Our endowment of raw materials positions us perfectly, especially for the manufacture of vehicles, including electric vehicles. South Africa has, over past decades, built robust automotive and component manufacturing hubs and is now part of the global value chain when it comes to manufacturing of vehicles. Ghana has made remarkable progress and has developed an automotive policy which has led to investment in local vehicle assembly plants. And this is the right way to go. And in this regard, we see great complementarity, as Minister Patel was saying earlier, between what Ghana does and what South Africa does in this area as well. The global recovery will increase demand for a variety of industrial and consumption products. We are fortunate, ladies and gentlemen, to have the requisite raw materials for these products, ranging from oil to gold, to diamonds, to bauxite, to timber, to cocoa, and arable land for agriculture. But we have the most important endowment, the people of our continent, people who are capable, people who are acquiring great skills on an ongoing basis. We call on industrialists to invest in the beneficiation of these natural resources. The time has come for us to make products that Africans can use. The time has indeed come for us to use products that we make, given the growing market the African continent offers. We are talking here about a market of 1.3 billion people. As President Nana Akufo-Addo continues to say, by 2050, 1.4 people on earth will be African. And this is something that those who are outside of our continent don't want to hear. But it is true. 1 out of 4 people, and it frightens the hell out of them. 1 out of 4 people will be African, whether they like it or not. It's going to happen. We call on investors and banks and development finance institutions, and a number of them are here, sitting in this meeting hall, to partner in projects such as gold and oil refineries, aluminium smelters, renewable energy, information and communications technology, and agro-processing. It was very pleasing to hear and to see the video that was being shown here, but also to read the booklet that has been produced for this business forum, to see a number of businesses that are focusing on some of these areas. And may I add, I was deeply impressed that many of them are women-led businesses. And this speaks very, very directly to our objective of empowering the women of our continent. We do need to intensify efforts to build strong industrial bases and expand our exports to create more employment opportunities for the people on our continent, especially young people. Bilateral trade between South Africa and Ghana is growing, and this is pleasing. But I would like to see more heightened growth. Much as we are growing, I'd like to see us grow more exponentially. In 2020, the trade volumes between Ghana and South Africa reached just over 14 billion. However, South African exports to Ghana are dominated by industrial products, while South African imports are largely minerals and unfinished products. To correct this imbalance, we need to develop manufacturing capacities on both countries' sides. South African investors continue to show confidence in the enabling business environment that President has created here in Ghana. We welcome the US dollar investment amounting to $242 million made by South African companies in 2020. And I challenge the business delegation here today to even invest much more than that. The large presence of South African investors in the Ghanaian market bears testimony to the investor-friendly environment that has been created here. So that investment-friendly market is a magnet. It is attractive, and it shows that indeed Ghana is very supportive for companies to grow in Ghana and to also grow Ghana at the same time. There are over 200 South African companies registered here in Ghana, employing nearly 20,000 Ghanaians. And this is a great achievement, but much more can be done. Over the past 10 years, South African companies have undertaken over 170 projects in Ghana with a total investment value in excess of $1.4 billion US. We are now in a better position to trade with one another through the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is centered here in Ghana. And this to us is a matter of great joy. When the President raised this matter, and he was lobbying and flying all over the continent, and we told him that he did not really even need to lobby us, because we as South Africans find it very easy to support Ghana in its various endeavors and efforts. So, President, you did not even need to come to South Africa to ask me, because it was a given. we were going to support Ghana anyway. In advancing the work of the AFCTFA, we congratulate the 42 member states that have ratified the agreement and want to continue calling on all AU members to do so. We are waiting with keen interest for the finalization of the outstanding rules of origin in order to commence with intercontinental trade. But we should say that Ghana and South Africa were the first at the starting block, just demonstrating that the two countries are truly determined to make this treaty to work. The protocols on intellectual property rights, digital trade, and women and youth in trade are important milestones for the Secretariat. The inclusion of women and youth in intercontinental trade is also vital for inclusive economic growth and for the creation of decent job opportunities. The speedy adoption of the investment protocol of the African Continental Free Trade Area will boost intercontinental investments. An investment protocol for the continent will provide policy certainty and is very important for investor attraction and protection. We are impressed by the enthusiasm as well as the interest expressed by the private sector and multilateral banking institutions in cross-border infrastructure projects. These are an important enabler of industrial development and intercontinental trade. This is a forum of opportunity and promise, and I'm rather glad, as I said, to see there are so many business leaders from both countries, because this forum brings together the businesses that will drive the recovery of our two economies and will also help to shape the growth and development of Ghana and South Africa in years to come. We did discuss the issue of the business forum in our discussions during our Binational Commission inaugural meeting, and as will be confirmed by the President, we said that we would like the business forum to be part of the architecture of the BNC, so that whenever we meet on a biannual basis, the business forum should also be in the mix, and you should be able to meet as you are now, because it is through these types of meetings that we can enhance greater investment between the two economies. So we've decided to make you a structure of the BNC. You may not like it, but it's a good thing to do. So we look forward to you forging partnerships, enduring partnerships, but we also look forward to you arriving at deals and making deals, because the commercial opportunities that abound in both countries are immense. And I hope you have lived up to the adage of moving from contact to contract so that we can advance the two economies. Now, as I conclude, I was particularly impressed with the report back that we received here. I was particularly impressed with your focus on the issue of skills, improving the human capital on our continent, but more importantly, focusing on curriculum improvement on both sides, particularly in engineering skills. I was particularly pleased and impressed to hear how you want standardization of PPEs across the two countries. That is wonderful, which would also be spread throughout the continent. Also, contract implementation and adherence, that too is an area that we believe is going to enhance investment on our continent. Yes, you also spoke about the user pay principle. That for us is music in our ears, because the best way to reduce continued reliance on the state is when our people begin to know that they should pay for what they use. The database issue of professionals is something that we would find most useful, because we should get to a stage where we have a database where we know where the professionals are, so that we integrate our continent much more effectively. And as we seek out top-line engineering skills, top-line information technology skills, fourth industrial revolution skills, we should be able to look right across the continent and not just be focused on few little markets. So that I found very, very useful. The mobility of professionals is also something that I found most useful as an outcome of your deliberations. The project standardization, how you want to implement projects, is also an area that I found very useful. Setting up an infrastructure fund that will span across the entire continent is something that will be a great boon to our continent. And the last and important point, which I want to truly appreciate, is how you have said that you want to depoliticize projects. This I support. Africa must now move away from too much political involvement, also by politicians. I want to stress this point, where politicians put their fingers in project awards, project execution, and may I say their dirty fingers in all those projects. We must move away from that. If our continent is going to be a successful continent, you are right, we need to depoliticize them. It should rely on our professionals. It should rely on financing those projects, executing those projects, standardizing the methods of executing those projects, and there should not be arbitrariness, where you sometimes hear that because, a CEO of one company or another, having not complied with a little regulation, is arrested and put in prison for infractions like that. We need to standardize the way we work, and I must say that this is one of the issues that the President and I discussed, so that we can find a way of evolving a good value system at the business level as well, which can be adhered to throughout our continent. And we concluded that Ghana and South Africa should really be the stimuli of such a process. So you have talked our language, and we would like to thank you. Now, President, I'm convinced that there are some clever people in business. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa.